They ruled the icy lands of Europe and Asia, a species of powerful hunters and artisans. They were our greatest rival, dominating the environment. But 40,000 years ago, this apex predator vanished. This is the story of the Neanderthals. For nearly 2 weeks, the Neanderthal group has followed a slow-moving herd of mammoths across the endless frozen plains. They are far from their cave, too far to return until the hunt succeeds. At night, they build simple shelters from branches and hides. Fires burn through the cold darkness, keeping predators and fear at bay. Food is running low. Dried meat, roots, almost gone. The elders eat little, saving what's left for the younger hunters. Small game is scarce. The land offers nothing easily. Their survival now depends on one hunt. The morning was cold and misty. Through the haze, they could see the herd moving near a lake. Then, they noticed an opportunity, an old mammoth, lagging behind the others, struggling to keep pace with the herd. The hunters spread out carefully, moving to different sides to drive the old male toward the muddy lakeside. It was a dangerous task, one that often ended in serious injury, or even death. As the mammoth stumbled through the thick mud, several hunters advanced, gripping their sharp wooden spears. Even in its old age, the mighty beast could kill a man with a single blow. When they were close enough, the senior hunter struck first, a precise thrust from a short distance. Moments later, others followed, landing 3, 4 solid blows on the mammoth's thick hide. They stepped back quickly, watching as the creature bellowed in pain. Its hide was tough. Sometimes it took several attacks before a mammoth would fall. As the long day passed, the old mammoth grew weaker, and finally, it fell. The hunters celebrated their daring success. Their bravery and teamwork meant food, clothing, and tools for their entire group. The mammoth's sacrifice would sustain them for weeks, a vital part of survival in the harsh world of the Ice Age. The story of the Neanderthals begins not in the depths of prehistory, but in the middle of the 19th century, with a remarkable discovery in a quiet valley in western Germany. In 1856, limestone quarry workers in the Neander Valley, near Dusseldorf, unearthing a set of strange bones from a small cave called Feldhofer Grotto. At first glance, the remains appeared human, yet the thick bones and unusually shaped skull suggested something very different. When local naturalists examined the fossils, debates immediately erupted. Some claimed the bones belonged to a deformed modern man, but others argued they represented a separate, ancient species. It was only in the years that followed, especially after the discoveries of similar fossils in Belgium and Gibraltar, that scientists began to realize the true significance of what had been found. Evidence of another branch of humanity. The name Homo neanderthalensis was later given in honor of the valley where these first remains were uncovered. These fossils marked the first time humanity recognized that it was not alone in its evolutionary past. The Neanderthals stood as our closest relatives, intelligent, adaptable beings who thrived long before modern humans arrived in Europe. This discovery fundamentally changed how we understood our place in nature. It revealed that human history stretched far deeper than anyone had imagined, and that the story of our species was not a simple, singular path, but a complex family tree with many branches. The Neanderthals were one of the most widespread human species to ever inhabit the planet. Emerging around 400,000 years ago, they occupied vast regions across Europe and Western Asia, adapting to a range of harsh and changing environments. Their territory stretched from the Atlantic coasts of Portugal and Spain, across the dense forests of Central Europe, and as far east as the mountains of Uzbekistan and Siberia. Evidence of their presence has also been discovered in the Middle East, in modern-day Israel, Iraq, and Syria, regions that may have served as migration corridors between Africa, Asia, and Europe. During much of their existence, Earth was in the grip of the Ice Age. Glaciers blanketed much of northern Europe, and even the more temperate regions experienced bitterly cold winters. Despite these severe conditions, Neanderthals thrived. They were skilled hunters and resourceful survivors, capable of enduring freezing climates that would challenge modern humans without advanced technology. Their settlements were typically located in limestone caves and rock shelters, which offered protection from the wind, cold, and predators. Archaeological evidence shows that Neanderthals moved with the rhythms of the seasons, following herds of large animals such as mammoths, bison, and reindeer across the tundra. In warmer interglacial periods, they occupied open plains and forests, adapting their lifestyles to new environments. This remarkable flexibility allowed them to survive for hundreds of thousands of years across some of the most demanding landscapes on Earth. Through the scattered remains of their hearths, tools, and bones, we can trace the footprints of a people who mastered the cold, navigated vast distances, and made Europe their home long before the arrival of modern humans. Neanderthals were both strikingly familiar and distinctly different from modern humans. So when their fossilized remains were first examined, scientists were quick to notice their powerful, robust build, an anatomy finely tuned for endurance and survival in the harsh Ice Age environment of prehistoric Europe. The difference standing on average between 1.5 and 1.7 meters tall, Neanderthals were shorter but considerably stockier than modern Homo sapiens, when their bones were thick and strong, indicating dense muscle attachment points that allowed them to perform physically demanding tasks such as hunting large animals and crafting tools from stone and bone. Their barrel-shaped chests and broad pelvises helped them conserve body heat in cold climates, while their short limbs minimized heat loss, a classic adaptation seen in many cold-dwelling species. Perhaps the most distinctive feature of the Neanderthal was the skull. It was long and low, with a pronounced brow ridge, a wide nose, and a slightly projecting mid-face. Their cranial capacity averaged around 1,500 cubic centimeters, slightly larger than that of modern humans, suggesting that their brains were at least comparable in size, though possibly different in organization. Their large nasal passages may have helped warm and humidify cold air before it reached the lungs, another sign of adaptation to Ice Age conditions. In contrast, modern humans evolved a more slender frame, with lighter bones, a higher forehead, smaller brow ridges, and a rounded skull. Yet despite these physical distinctions, Neanderthals were unmistakably human, intelligent, social, and capable of complex behavior. Their anatomy tells a story not of primitiveness, but of evolutionary specialization, a body built to thrive where few others could endure. Daily life for Neanderthals was defined by resilience, ingenuity, and an intimate connection to the natural world. In a landscape dominated by cold climates and unpredictable seasons, survival depended on skill, cooperation, and the intelligent use of available resources. Far from being primitive, Neanderthals were remarkably adept at adapting their behavior to the demands of their environment. Hunting was central to their way of life. Armed with sturdy wooden spears tipped with sharpened stone points, Neanderthals pursued large Ice Age animals such as mammoths, bison, and woolly rhinoceroses. Archaeological evidence, including animal bones bearing cut marks, shows they worked together in coordinated groups, using strategy and communication to bring down formidable prey. Smaller animals, fish, and gathered plants also supplemented their diet, revealing a flexible and opportunistic approach to food. Toolmaking was another hallmark of Neanderthal ingenuity. They perfected a technique known as the Levallois method, which involved carefully shaping stone cores to produce sharp, uniform flakes. These flakes became knives, scrapers, and points, versatile tools used for cutting meat, processing hides, and woodworking. The sophistication of these implements demonstrates foresight, planning, and an understanding of material properties. Fire played a vital role in Neanderthal life. It provided warmth, light, protection from predators, and a means to cook food, making nutrients easier to digest. Evidence of hearths found in caves across Europe and Asia reveals that fire was not a rare discovery, but a mastered skill. Freezing temperatures, Neanderthals likely fashioned clothing from animal hides, possibly using bone tools to scrape and soften the material. Together, these practices paint a vivid portrait of a people who were not mere survivors of the Ice Age, but skilled masters of it. Around 60,000 years ago, two intelligent human species shared the Earth: the Neanderthals of Europe and Western Asia, and the newly arrived Homo Sapiens from Africa. Their encounters marked one of the most significant chapters in human evolution. As modern humans migrated northward into Neanderthal territory, their worlds began to overlap. Archaeological evidence suggests that for thousands of years the two species coexisted across parts of Europe and the Middle East. In some areas, they may have exchanged ideas, technologies, and even social customs. Stone tools from both groups often appear side by side, indicating that contact was frequent and, at times, cooperative. Yet coexistence was not always peaceful. Their competition for food and territory likely created tension, especially as changing climates reduced available resources. The arrival of Homo sapiens, with more advanced tools, broader social networks, and faster population growth, may have gradually displaced Neanderthal groups. Genetic research has revealed that interbreeding occurred multiple times over thousands of years. Today, between 1 and 2% of the DNA in people of non-African ancestry comes from Neanderthals, a living testament to this ancient connection. What genetic legacy includes traits influencing our immune systems, metabolism, and even responses to certain diseases? Around 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals, after thriving for more than 300,000 years, vanished from the Earth. Their disappearance remains one of the great mysteries of human prehistory. Fossil and genetic evidence show that they once ranged widely across Europe and Western Asia, yet within a few millennia of Homo sapiens' arrival, they were gone. Scholars have proposed several theories to explain this extinction, none singularly conclusive, but together painting a complex picture of struggle and change. One of the leading explanations is climate change. The Neanderthals lived through repeated Ice Age cycles, but the final glacial period brought rapid and severe environmental shifts. Expanding ice sheets, colder temperatures, and dwindling vegetation would have reduced populations of the large animals they relied upon. As food sources declined, isolated Neanderthal groups may have faced starvation and population collapse. Another major factor is competition. The arrival of Homo sapiens introduced new challenges. Modern humans possessed advanced tools, more efficient hunting strategies, and broader social networks that allowed them to adapt and expand. Over time, these advantages may have outcompeted Neanderthals for the same resources. Some scientists also consider the possibility of disease. Pathogens carried by migrating humans from Africa could have spread quickly through Neanderthal populations with little natural immunity. Combined with smaller group sizes and lower birth rates, even minor epidemics could have been devastating. Ultimately, the extinction of the Neanderthals was likely not the result of one single cause, but the cumulative pressure of many. Climate instability, resource competition, disease, and assimilation through interbreeding. Though their physical form disappeared, their genetic legacy persisted within modern humans, ensuring that the Neanderthal story did not end, but transformed into part of our own. For over a century, bones and fossils told us what Neanderthals looked like, but not who they truly were. That changed in the early 21st century, when advances in genetics allowed scientists to extract fragments of ancient DNA from Neanderthal fossils preserved in the cold soils of Europe and Siberia. It was a revolutionary moment, the first time we could peer directly into the genetic code of an extinct human relative. Using techniques of ancient DNA sequencing, researchers carefully isolated and reconstructed genetic material from tiny samples of bone powder, some more than 40,000 years old. When compared to modern human genomes, the results were astonishing. Homo sapiens and Neanderthals shared over 99.7% of their DNA, differing only slightly. Yet those differences shaped unique evolutionary paths. Even more striking was the discovery of interbreeding, proving that these two species were not completely separate, but part of a connected human story. The shared DNA reveals a deep biological relationship, one that extends beyond physical traits. It shows that our immune systems, metabolism, and even our ability to adapt to certain climates were influenced by Neanderthal genes. These findings challenge the notion of a pure human lineage, replacing it with a mosaic of interconnected ancestries. Today, every genome sequenced adds new details to this story, reminding us that evolution is not a tale of replacement, but of inheritance and fusion. The Neanderthal genome stands as a bridge between past and present, proof that the line dividing them and us is far thinner than we once believed.